Ex-boyfriend and sister betrayed me, formed a romantic relationship, and now I'm left feeling alone and heartbroken. I'm 19 and I've never been in a situation like this before. I met my ex Jack when I was 14 and once we graduated high school us and my older sister moved in together. I trust both of them with my life and they were my only friends. My sister Lucy thought she was a lesbian and I never thought Jack would do this. I had no reason to not trust either of them. So when they became friends a few months into living together I was happy. It was nice having my two closest friends also be friends. Jack and Lucy continued becoming closer throughout the next 2 years and me and Jack became more distant. It seems so obvious now but I've never been great at reading social cues as I have autism. A year ago Jack came up to me after Lucy had a hard day and asked if it was okay that he hugged her. He said that he didn't want to cross any boundaries and that he wouldn't if I wasn't alright with. I said yes for many reasons. 1. I'm not the jealous type. I trusted both of them with my life and 2, as I said and she thought she was a lesbian. Plus I didn't feel like there was a problem with just hugging. So they hugged each other occasionally which over time became more frequently. I think because it was such a slow process I didn't notice them getting closer. Jack became more distant from me. Our schedules were almost opposite of each other so I barely got to see him until evening and by that time he just wanted to game or watch TV. I focused on how little time we spent together and not how much time he spent with Lucy. I feel like an idiot now and I'm sure you guys will think I'm lying when I say that I didn't suspect anything going on. You would think that if any time you saw your boyfriend he was with your sister on the same couch watching TV while they cuddled you'd notice. But I didn't. I was actually happy because in my mind we were also good friends. I did have many talks with Jack saying how neglected I felt and he asked me a lot if I was okay with him hugging and cuddling her. I did feel a little weird about it but I didn't trust my feelings. I made myself believe that I was only upset because I wasn't getting attention. I also felt like somehow I didn't have a right to dictate how Jack acted as he never did that to me. My sister always took the brunt of our abuse growing up and never had anyone to support her so I also was happy that she had someone to talk to finally. I didn't want to take that away from her since I owed her so much. I thought that as long as Jack actually started giving me more love that I wouldn't feel upset anymore. But despite the many conversations of me begging him to cuddle me and hug me nothing changed. I think eventually I gave up. About half a year ago I became a recluse in my room and barely saw anyone. I still love Jack I just gave up the belief that I deserved to be showed affection. And in my mind giving love and loving was separate I guess. At the same time my little sister, 15, Brenna, who is still stuck in the same abusive situation I mentioned earlier became super depressed and developed anorexia. Between my own stress I also relapsed back into my own eating disorder I had in high school. But seeing as I felt like Lucy and Jack were no longer options for me to turn to I had no one. This was a very lonely time for myself. I began to fail my classes and called off work a lot which isn't like me. Things got worse when back in March Brenna had to go to the mental hospital for suicidal thoughts and self-harm. She got diagnosed with anorexia and ADHD. She also then confided in me and Lucy that her older brother was abusing her emotionally and kept on making comments about her body and it became obvious that she was horribly codependent with him. This was more than a major red flag because he sexually abused me when I was between the ages of 7 and 9. So to learn that he was potentially doing the same to her killed me inside. Brenna started living with us after that and she started to gain a sort of better relationship with food and was able to start healing a little bit now that she didn't live one room down from our brother. This was a horribly stressful and triggering couple of months. Lucy started having a really hard time coping between that situation and her own Adderall addiction that I didn't know about. She began smoking and just generally having a hard time not relapsing with self-harm as she struggled with that in the past. She wouldn't accept any help from me as I'm her little sister and didn't want to burden me. Jack began comforting her a lot and I was glad someone was able to help a little. He began kissing her on the forehead with my consent as they became closer. I just wanted Lucy to be happy so I didn't want to take that away in such a hard time. If I knew that they loved each other I would have done something different. But I thought they were close almost like brother and sister. Brenna eventually needed more help than what we could offer. So my mom took her to a hotel and I went with them to support her. This was really hard because my mom is a narcissist that caused me a lot of pain as a kid. During that week stay Jack texted me on the first day and told me that he was really sorry for not asking first but they had gotten high and slept in the same bed without shirts. I didn't know how to react and I couldn't process this at all. I felt very awkward and just said okay since I was very busy at the hotel dealing with various breakdowns. I learned later that before I left for the hotel I told Lucy that she could use my bed since she had been sleeping on the couch. And that they took this to mean that I was okay with them both sleeping in my bed since me and Jack shared. I don't remember telling her that, but it was a stressful situation so I must have forgot. I didn't have time to focus on that issue so I decided to talk to them about it later. I didn't get the chance to since the next day he asked if it was okay if he sat with Lucy while she showered. A little context, Lucy has a horrible trigger for water-related things and I often would sit with her. I was also a little taken aback but I felt like somehow I would be bad to deny her anything. So I said yes. I don't that I was complicit in all this but I truly didn't think they would hurt me like this. And I viewed it as the same thing as me helping her since Jack made it clear that he didn't think of her as anything other than a friend. And I trusted him. The next day after that they both came up to the town I was staying in for Lucy's doctor's appointment. Jack and I went on the first date we had in months and it was nice to get away from the hectic hotel situation I was in. That night though they texted me and asked me to come out to the truck to talk with them. That's when Jack told me that the night before he had been in bed with Lucy again, both just in their underwear, and was rubbing her back when he started to rub her ass. He said that she was shocked and left but they had talked and came to the conclusion that they cheated and that they both like each other. I have a really hard time processing information so I was shocked mostly. I wasn't expecting this at all despite all the signs I ignored. I was desperately clinging on to the hope of working everything out. The wording he used made it seem like he liked her, so after they cried a bunch I went back to the hotel room. I didn't have a break as my mom was yelling at Brenna and I had to calm them down. The next morning I talked to my therapist and finally cried myself. I was confused and hurt but also willing to try to work things out. That day was Jack's birthday so we all went out to celebrate. Jack turned 21 and so Lucy and Jack went bar hopping. I knew I was uncomfortable with that but I didn't want to say something and ruin his birthday. I wasn't asked directly if I was okay with it, which I know sounds stupid but I truly didn't know what words to say to express my feelings. I felt very uncomfortable though so I went home that night with them when they were done. That night I was up in my room while Lucy and Jack were drunk downstairs and I just broke down. I felt horrible for thinking some of the things I did and I was mostly just so heartbroken. I had the worst thoughts of ending it all but was too worn out to do anything. I wanted so badly to go downstairs and get comforted but those were the very people who were causing my pain. These two were my only friends. I had no one else I could go to and I just felt so alone. I was feeling better by the next day and was planning on having a sit-down conversation once Jack got off work. I was able to talk to Lucy a little and was feeling hopeful. We all went out to eat and it was good. I hugged Jack for the first time since I left for the hotel and he cried. I thought we could actually work things out. They went to the park since Jack wanted to talk to Lucy alone and I felt uncomfortable again, but as I said I trust these people with my life. They came back home a couple hours later. We all sat in the living room and he said he wanted to break up. He said that he couldn't love me romantically and that he loved Lucy. He cried and I just kept thinking about how it was all over. I set a rule for myself when I was very young that people break up for a reason and that there's so good reason to go back to them. So I knew that it was all over. I cried so much that I threw up. I was angry and hurt. That next week Lucy stayed over at Jack's hotel a lot. I was left alone at the house and I felt like a robot going through the motions. I barely ate and I slept most of the time. I was so lonely that when I saw my dad I didn't know how to interact with him. Lucy did not ever try to lessen the situation and only took responsibility. Despite that she still said that she plans to get with Jack in the future once I get over him. That if she doesn't she'll grow to resent me as she might not ever find someone else and that this is the first time she's been in love. I don't know what's worse to think about. The fact that she could do this to me when I know I could do it to her in a million years, or that she loves my ex so much she's willing to do this to me. He was my first love too. I can understand why she loves him so much since I love him too. And I understand why he loves her so much. Lucy is an amazing person and all of the friends I've ever made have always liked her more, they're never shy to say it. So this situation doesn't help the complex I had as a kid that everyone likes her more. I have been doing surprisingly well. I haven't missed him all that much. Maybe that's because for the past few months I've barely seen him so there's not much of a difference, but Lucy still hangs out with him. And that hurts. Every time she goes out with her friends and I learn that Jack was there I feel my heart break. Lucy says that Jack has been crying a lot when Hess reminded of me and I don't know how to feel. If he doesn't actually love me, why is he so sad? I have to trample down any hope that he does still love me. I know that even if he does I won't be able to take him back and it hurts. I also can't help but think about how sick it is that Hess going to kiss her and be intimate with her in the same ways he was with me. We're sisters and it's sick to think about how she's going to do that with him knowing that I did too. I keep telling myself it's none of my business but I still can't stop thinking about it. I feel bad because I can't help but want them to not work out, or to hope for him to cheat on her too. But at the same time I want Lucy to be happy, no matter who it's with. I also just can't see how their relationship will work out since it started in this way, but that's none of my business either. I just don't know what to do. I don't have any friends. And I just wish I could have been broken up and been done with it. I blocked him but Hess still somehow in my life one way or another. How am I supposed to heal with all of this going on? Sorry for the long post, I just really needed to get this all off my chest, and if anyone has any advice or any insights that would be great. Edit, I wanted to add on that Lucy and Jack, the last time I saw him of course, have been taking responsibility and stuff. Lucy doesn't seem to be trying to make me forgive her or feel bad for her at all. She does make an effort to not excuse herself since our parents never took responsibility for anything. So she isn't trying to lie or anything, but she is still going to make her own decisions. She's been taking up an attitude recently, not completely related to this situation, that she's been selfless her whole life and that she's going to be doing things for herself now. It's true that she has been selfless and gave herself for everyone around her. As I said, she shielded me a lot as a kid. She never said this I don't think in regards to dating Jack, but I can't help but believe it's related. Also, if you want a quick laugh, since even my therapist thought this was funny. Right after Jack broke up with me I kind of let loose all the shit he did when we were together that I never told anyone about. One of these things was that he left scat stains in my bedding and told me that it wasn't from him and stuff. And you wanna know what Lucy said to this? That it still doesn't deter her lol. My therapist said really? Scat stains doesn't deter her?